Thank you all for coming. It is our pleasure, as the Adat Chaverim Congregation for Humanistic Judaism, to welcome Devyn Carter, whose background is in anthropology, but as he will explain in a moment, that sort of dovetails into his primary work, which is with chimps and primatology. Primatology being a very multidisciplinary field by nature. And he worked at the Center for Great Apes in Florida and the Living Links Center in Atlanta, Georgia, and has some really fascinating insights to share with us about the very fascinating field of primatology. So if I left anything out, you want to fill in the blanks?
No, that's great. Did you want to start out with do you have any specific questions, or you just
I do, but if there's any biographical stuff you want to share.
No, I mean that's pretty much right on point. I started out about 10 years ago actually doing volunteer work and behavioral research kind of in exchange for one another. So I will do whatever you want here at the Center for Great Apes, which is a retirement home for chimpanzees and orangutans that were used in the entertainment business for many, many years. So actually most of them born and raised here in California. And then as the chimpanzees and orangutans get to be about 5, 6 years old, they're like, I really don't want to be an actor. Snatch me from my family and they put me in a little outfit. And they get too rambunctious and too dangerous. And so it's possible that they could end up in a biomedical facility that does experiments, even though that's kind of on the wane right now. They're very expensive to care for, but there's a woman by the name of Patty Reagan who has built a little, it's like a little ape city in the middle of nowhere, Florida. And she's built this from the ground up, and so she takes in orangutans and chimpanzees, again, mostly from here, but not always, sometimes from private homes. And they don't make good pets. So if you know anybody who has an ape in their home, it's probably, you might want to discourage them from that. It never ends well for the human or the ape. So she started that many years ago, actually, and they moved to Washington about, I think, 11 or 12 years ago with the few that they had, and they've grown since I think they have over 50 groups now. And I started volunteering there because I was finishing up my bachelor's degree, and I had heard about her facility, and so I started spending the weekends there. And I began working with a chimpanzee named Knuckles, who has cerebral palsy, which is manifested in pretty much exactly the same way that you would see it in a human child. And so I was interested in observing how the other chimpanzees treated him and how he fit in with his conspecifics there. And if there was a sort of an awareness on their part that he was different, which we observed that there probably was an awareness and some extra tolerance given towards him, which is interesting. And then I went on, after I finished that up, we moved to Atlanta, where I had lived previously, and I started working at Emory University for the Yerkes National Primate Research Center, where they do some biomedical work with the monkeys and rodents, but not with the apes, the chimpanzees. It's all behavioral, non-invasive stuff. So they have kind of a sanctuary lifestyle. And I started working for a well-known primatologist, Franz de Waal, as a research assistant to him. And I stayed there for 5 years, and we put together different types of research paradigms. Research, it's all fun stuff for the chimps. They come running. We call it research, and they call it, games and extra bananas. So they're very motivated to come and have this time with you. And then we just record and observe everything that they do. And any of you, I would really love it. I brought my laptop in. I would love to show you all the videos that I did bring a few video clips, so afterwards I'm happy to show you some of the stuff that we did.
Wonderful. So we can get the controversial stuff out of the way. Well, it's all controversial, depending on your point of view. But you mentioned that the medical experimentation on chimps is sort of a thing of the past. Why is that, and what has caused that trend?
Well, I wish I could say that it was all due to more enlightenment about the close genetic similarity that we share with them, and I think that some of it is from that. But also, interestingly, chimpanzees have proven to not be as suitable models for studying human disease as we thought that they were. It would seem logical that they would be really good models for studying human disease transmission and progression because of their genetic similarity to us. They're our closest living relative. We share a cousinship with them. However, they are resilient to certain things that are, or semi-resilient to certain types of diseases. So if you somehow, the HIV HIV, human immunodeficiency virus, in primates is called simian immunodeficiency virus, but it's very similar. So if chimpanzees are given AIDS or something, essentially, they don't make very good models for studying how to eradicate it in humans because their immune systems are so hardy that they might not get sick from it for many, many years and maybe never really get that ill from it. And so they don't make a very good model for, in real time, for scientists to study how the body deals with, not only that, I give that as an example. So that kind of research that's highly invasive in the 1970s, 80s, a little bit into the 90s, it just became apparent that they were far hardier than we really realized. And so they have moved out of fashion for biomedical studies. I've only met a couple of chimpanzees who were surviving, who had survived from the 80s that had hepatitis C and HIV and things like that. Almost all of the animals that we ever worked with, and all the ones I ever worked with specifically, had never really had anything other than yearly blood draws done for them. And so it's really kind of gone, it's back towards, interestingly, monkeys have been, we share like 25 million years common ancestry with monkeys and probably 6 with chimps. But they've proven to be better models for studying disease than chimpanzees. And also, I do think that there's been a lot more awareness of ethics and how we treat these highly sentient, emotional, cognitive, intelligent, highly structured animals, and an awareness that we really need to do better by them. And so this type of research is really falling by the wayside. The USA is a little slow on this, I think. Other countries have really kind of grasped this a lot sooner. You won't find any biomedical research going on with chimpanzees or other apes in the UK or in most parts of Europe. I think all parts of Europe. I don't think that there's laws strictly forbidding it. So we're a little late to the game, but it's changing. Even as we speak, a lot of the individuals that are still in research facilities, they are seeking permanent retirement for these 900,000 or so chimpanzees that are still in biomedical facilities. At the Yerkes facility, I believe there's about 140. I spent my time with about 30 of them, but again, they've kind of been on hold for a long time. They haven't really been doing anything with them, so they're trying to give them as much enrichment as space as possible and hopefully retire them. They're not breeding them. I never worked with babies when I was at Yerkes at the Living Link Center. They were all the females either had IUD implants or the males were vasectomized. So no babies. So their behavior and their sociality was still worth studying, but we weren't working with infants there. Occasionally one will pop up.
So with the, we'll have questions at the end, if you can hold them in your minds. I know that in recent years, there's also been less resistance on the part of many scientists to this notion of anthropomorphism, which is basically seeing human traits in animals, and particularly animals like chimps that are, 95 to 98% genetically similar to us. And the behaviorism, which was just looking at the behavior, sort of being replaced with a more, we might say, enlightened view of looking at emotions in animals. And I know that your mentor, Franz de Waal, he mentioned that any adjective you can apply to a human being, stubborn, playful, curious, sinister, whatever it is, can be applied to chimps as well. And he also mentioned, and you mentioned to me in the past, that just looking at a chimp in the eye, you see sort of a bond. There's a real connection there that really doesn't maybe translate unless you are actually experiencing it, but maybe we detect that 98% similarity. And I'm just wondering your take on sort of the shift in our understanding of what we used to think of as exclusive human qualities in chimps.
Definitely. I think that it was probably convenient for us for a long time to create this divide. And I have to give Franz de Waal a lot of credit for writing numerous books and other scientists as well that really do highlight the similarities. And just because they're similar to us, that shouldn't be the only reason that we offer them empathy. They're interesting in their own right. But yes, there's and I think that we have connection there due to their being primates that are similar to us, we're primates as well. And so even though I also have a connection to my dog, who I love very much, it is different in a way that is far more tangible. That, you know, when you're with them, and a lot of times they want you to groom with them, or hold their hands, and the nails and the fingerprints and everything is so remarkably similar. The teeth, the way they look at you, the communications that you try to decipher. I always kind of say that we had to learn chimpanzee, so it behooved us to understand their gestures and their vocalizations in a way that we could really connect with them. And speaking to science, science is coming around a little bit to being more accepting of the idea of anthropomorphizing something. Doesn't have to be such a dirty word as it's been in the sciences for so many years. And not just with chimpanzees, but with other animals as well. There really is a connection there, especially with mammals. I would say we can include a lot of mammalian traits there. So it would be preposterous at this point, especially with all the research that we've gathered, to conclude that chimpanzees and other great apes and other animals as well don't have all these traits that Franz has spoken of, that it might be to a lesser degree than what you and I experience with one another on a daily basis as human beings. But to continue to deny these strong connections seems ludicrous in face of the science that's been coming out over the years, looking at behavior and cognition and sociality of these animals. And so it's coming to the point where if you are denying that, if you're really, not denying an evolutionary connection, but denying that it's I always say it's a difference of degree instead of a difference in kind. And so if you really acknowledge the difference in degree, it really opens you up to understanding animal behavior a lot more than if you're shutting the door to, well, we are human beings and therefore there's something so special and unique about us that we don't want to project that onto animals. And that's actually true. We don't want to project it onto animals because we don't want to over-interpret results either. So there's a checks and balances system in place in the sciences whereby every claim that you have showing that a chimpanzee, for example, can solve problem A or B, you need to be able to back that up with peer-reviewed research, and everybody will pounce on whatever your results are, and they'll have lots of heated arguments about it at conferences, and it's kind of fun. But you need to be able to, other people need to be able to replicate what you've discovered and try to reach some similar